I mean, we're in a major trade war with China, and Dan, you've mentioned in the past on several occasions that free trade has benefited sort of two-thirds of Americans and hurts one-third of Americans. And as a country, we used to live the concept of shared sacrifice. Probably winning World War II was the best example of that in our history. And now we likely need that shared sacrifice to beat China in a war that's hopefully nothing more than a trade war. So my question to you guys is, as a nation, do you think we can still do that? Can we make that shared sacrifice? Or maybe put another way, how much is that majority, the two-thirds, willing to give for the good of the country to help that one-third?
Great question.
I think the country would be willing to sacrifice a little bit because you're talking about people's bottom line, you're talking about inflation. But here's the thing. I have trouble seeing what is currently manufactured and produced in China jumping back to the United States where it would cost 4, 5, 6x. What is more likely from a transition standpoint, which is what you've seen, is they went to Vietnam. And then if they can't go to Vietnam, they go to, another low cost of labor, low labor standards. Again, we can debate whether that's good or whatnot. If you asked me, is the 65% of the country willing to sacrifice to see significant price increases, it's tough. Because what they're going to ask is, did we have to do this? Is it really feasible to get all of this back here to kind of sell to ourselves at these prices? I don't know. I hope for the good of the country, Trump is able to figure this out.
So, Matt, first of all, I really, really appreciate your question, because I think this is where, like, this takes bipartisanship and leadership. So there's a point at which we could come together, and I wish the president would do this, is to say, and this is why what pisses me off so much about TikTok. I get why we care about the economic stuff and getting cheap stuff, and okay, but this is a country who wants to take us over. And the idea that we don't have alignment from our leaders to say this is something like I think part of our trade nexus in the past has been, we'll allow countries that we have free trade agreements, Thailand, whether it's Thailand or Vietnam or they're part of ASEAN or APEC or AGOA in Africa. Like, part of it was to set up that construct. And I believe that if we don't get together, and that's why what pisses me off about TikTok is that this should be a no-brainer. They're stealing our IP. They are brainwashing our children. It's a national security threat, and we still can't get alignment on that. That, to me, that if you can't do that, you can't deal with the big stuff. And to me, this should be a no-brainer. And I would hope and believe that people should come together and say, this is a country that not just economically, but militarily wants to destroy us, not take us over, not hurt us. It's the same thing with Iran. When they chant death to Israel, before they chant that, they chant death to America. They want to kill us. And the idea that we can't get bipartisan agreement to say, these are our enemies, we will not deal with them, we will all come together, and that's one area where we will agree that we are united, upsets me, because it's not about a stupid app and allowing kids to watch viral videos. This is about taking us over. And if we don't get that on a bipartisan basis, then we're never going to get to the hard stuff.
But here's the thing, though, and this is what, Sean, is so frustrating for so many people who totally agree with you. China is huge in Canada, right? Vancouver, the western part of Canada, the oil fields of Calgary and Edmonton. To do that, you would go to the Canadians and say, let's band together to deal with this. You're going to have to transition off of Chinese investment and what
tried
you
this
have
with
over
Huawei.
You'd go to Vietnam, you'd go to the Asian countries and say, what can we do to bring you into our sphere? Guess what? We would have to give. Instead, we're saying, oh, you have this from us? Give it back or I'm going to sledgehammer you. It's hard to see that working.
I guess I don't totally disagree with you, Dan. I mean, that's part of the reason we're in the hole we are, because we use soft power as a cudgel. I mean, that's why we allowed the tariffs to happen the way they did, because that was how we, against the Soviet Union. So we said, hey, I tell you what, we'll allow you to sell your stuff in the United States. You can keep your tariff at 38 because we want you to align with us as a cudgel against the Soviet Union. When that fell, it was like, I think, again, at some point, Americans looked and said, okay, there's no more Soviet Union. Mm-hmm. But I get it, but at some point, and this was the issue with Huawei, is we went around to Europe and said, "Hey guys, they're literally embedding things into their technology. Dum-dums, I get it's cheaper, but they know what they're doing." And it was a hard sell. And that's the problem, is that China gets the joke, which is we just offer you cheap stuff, everybody buys in and goes, "Oh, we'll deal with the national security threat in 10 years."
Matt, anything you want to add?
No, Sean, I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, this is the can has been kicked down the road, it feels like, for the better part of now 2 decades. And the longer we wait to solve this, the worse the outcomes are going to be.
Yeah, and Dan, I mean, Matt, the problem I have is that when you have the Chinese openly talking about 2027,
Yeah.
like, we talk about Medicare, Medicaid going bankrupt. Screw that. These guys are very open about what they want to do by 2027. And so if you don't look at that as a existential threat, then you won't have to worry about Medicare or Medicaid, because you're going to be figuring out whether or not that you can speak Mandarin.